The Irish have an old tradition of waking the dead. It's a process particularly prevalent in the rural areas of the country. The family hires some professional mourners called keeners. And these are usually women who are particularly adept at wailing and tearing at their clothes in a prominent display of grief. This process enables the deceased families and friends to get down to the serious business of celebrating the departed person's life through the facilities of food and drink, song and dance, and storytelling and laughter. A rather practical approach to celebrating a life well lived. Bob could only make a claim to a small bit of unidentifiable Irish ancestry somewhere in the distant past, but then doesn't everybody? But since a long time back he muscled into Bridget and my family, claiming it as his own, we can stretch a point. The Irish tradition is exactly the type of send-off Bob would have wanted, without a course of professional wailers, since he had a little patience for theatrics without substance. So let's put the mourning aside and celebrate the life of this good man. Bob's life was the epitome of a life well lived. Sure, he had his low points, as do all of us, and more than his share of health issues, which he always met head on. But his life was full in the things that counted. He cherished Robin and the life they made together. And excuse me. And you would think that Allison and John were the only kids in the world who ever accomplished anything. I told you they get harder. His pride in his family was unrestrained. He had a successful career in police service, of which he was justifiably proud, and he made enduring friendships throughout his lifetime. But in the end, his family was the pinnacle of his achievements. I've known few people I could say were more content with the way their life turned out than Bob. As a tough guy he thought he was, he tried to mask a deep-seated kindness which was part of his belief system. While he had little patience for pomposity and bluster, he had a great sensitivity for the little guy who was down on his luck or in a bad situation. He believed his job as a cop was less about suppressing crime and more about serving people. He had a deep empathy for victims and an understanding of all but the most predatory of violators for whom he had no time at all. He had a wall of bravado that he used to shield his sensitivity, and there were few among us who were not at some time the recipients of one of his tirades when we didn't live up to his expectations. His depth of expression when aroused could be inspiring. He had a unique way of expressing himself when he wanted to tell someone he cared about them. It would usually take the form of, "Get out of here, I don't even like you." Or, if he wanted to express that word that ties up the tongue of those who live in an artificially macho environment, I speak of the L word, it would come out something like, "You know, I don't like you. I like your sister or brother better." Amazingly, those close to him understood what he meant. Not many people knew that Bob did volunteer work. It wasn't something he would brag about. It was something he believed needed doing. He liked to read to and call bingo for older folks. I can only imagine the look on the faces of serious bingo players when the non-stop mouth took the podium. He liked doing these things simply because of that built-in sense of goodness he had. Those who worked with Bob will remember the impatience he had for those whose ability did not match his expectations, or who he felt was lazy or not committed. He would carry on, sputtering and fuming. I would usually stoke the fire by suggesting the person was doing the best they could, to which he would invariably reply, "Well, that's not good enough." At this point, he would begin a slow descent back to equilibrium. When he was responsible for investigation into allegations of wrongdoing by members of the police department, he was always scrupulous about balancing the needs of the department and community with the fact that he was dealing with an officer's career. He had no tolerance for corrupt behavior, but was always cognizant of the need for fairness And while the community was always well served, cops who made an honest mistake never had a better friend than when he was the investigator in charge. I used to drive Bob crazy with my philosophical platitudes when one or the other of us was dealing with tough challenges. But in time, he came to believe that it is what it is, and a man has to do what a man has to do, with my apologies to Popeye and John Wayne. He believes he's actually made a bit of sense during times of adversity, and he adopted similar attitudes. We're here celebrating the life of a good, solid career cop who enjoyed the work he chose and did it well. He was a husband who admired and appreciated and loved his wife, Robin, and who truly believed that, bar none, she was the best friend he could ever have in his life journey. You know, I used to be tougher when I was young. A father who is at once an admirer of the fine art of ballet for his daughter Allison and a rabid baseball fan for his son John. A parent who was always there for his children, whom he deeply loved when they needed him. A friend who was fiercely loyal, a companion with a non-stop sense of humor, and an honest, sincere, and occasionally, very occasionally, humble man. A guy who met the challenges of his life and the adversity of ill health head-on with courage and the understanding of it is what it is. In short, a man who lived his life well and understood that success was not tied up in salaries or positions. Those things just paid the bills. He was a man who considered family, friendship, and honor as being the things which matter in this life. He was a man who did the best he could. Bob's passing will leave voids in many lives. The obvious would be, of course, the many empty places in the lives of Rob and Allison and John. Bridget and I will miss a close friend and a surrogate family member. Many of you will miss his friendship and humor. I know that Dennis Hart will have an opening on his speed dial. John Westmoreland will have an empty seat in his car at spring training time. His high school friend John Allen will miss an enduring friendship. Probably most of you can recall some space in your life that this remarkable Robin Williams meets Don Rickles personality filled. Rather than mourn our loss, however, we must remember that Bob was not about looking back. He always looked forward to the good things that lay ahead. We should do the same and cherish his memory and the individual joys we each shared with him. I have a thought that God put out a request for resumes last week. It read, in part, wanted. Idealistic, sensitive, and compassionate retired cop. Must be abrasive, uncompromising, and outspoken. Sense of humor and sarcasm prerequisites. Well, we know who answered the call. I can only suggest to God that he should be careful what he asks for. The Irish have a saying for virtually every circumstance known to man, and one of these reflects on parting and separation with wishes for an easy journey. It goes, may the road rise to meet you, may the wind be always at your back. Again, excuse me. And may God hold you in the palm of his hand until we meet again. And so, we celebrate Bob's life and temporarily part from him, content in the knowledge that we will meet again, and with the awareness that he will always be with us in our hearts. Robin, we can only say thanks for taking such good care of our friend and sharing him unselfishly. He loved you a great deal. Allison, I always joke with your dad about the Cranford Royal Princess. That's what you were to him, and you made him very proud. And John, in some ways, you are his alter ego. Your dad admired you and is proud of your capacity to rise to the occasion. As you follow in his footsteps, keep in mind that you will always have an unseen partner riding in that B-car with you. Bob, aloha. Until we meet again, and God bless.